So it's no surprise to anybody that I'm a big Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, and this is one of my favorite seasons of all time since I was born in '01. I remember seeing Notre Dame go to the national championship only to get blown out by Alabama. I've seen their two playoff runs where they went in 2018, got killed by Clemson, and in 2020 got killed by Alabama, but something feels different. This run has been one of the most unique runs I've ever seen in Notre Dame history because one, it's not under Brian Kelly, this is under Marcus Freeman, and this team's attitude, the way they play, is so much different from the Brian Kelly era of football. As you guys remember, Brian Kelly wanted to leave Notre Dame and go to LSU because he wanted to quote unquote win with the resources that you get in the SEC and not in Notre Dame. He didn't think he could win at Notre Dame. And now, 3 years later, Marcus Freeman, first-time head coach in college football, he ends up getting Notre Dame to the national championship, which is just unbelievable. Now, okay, it may not be his first time coaching, but to the high extent of the team he's coaching, yes, it's the biggest coaching job he's ever had. And now he is just one step away from winning the national championship. But Notre Dame has a very familiar foe who is standing in their way, and the Ohio State Buckeyes, who finished the year off at number 8. The question we're going to ask is not who do I think is going to win. Everybody knows where I'm going to probably hedge my bets. This episode is more or less about trying to convince the world how Notre Dame is going to beat Ohio State and what it's going to have to take in order to defeat the Buckeyes. So this is the kind of episode we're going to be looking at. We're looking over the national championship and seeing what is it going to take for Notre Dame to win it all. I hope you guys are excited for today's episode. And if you are, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe, as this is the second to last episode before season 2 ends, with the last one being the Super Bowl. Without further ado, let's get started. First place we want to start in today's episode is how both teams got to the national championship. We're going to start with the Buckeyes. Ohio State finished the year off 10-2 and missed out on playing in the Big Ten championship. 2 of their losses, one of them came to Oregon, in which they lost because Will Howard could not slide quick enough and call a timeout. The other one, they lose in a low-scoring close matchup against their rival foes of Michigan, who have beaten them the last 4 times now. And so going into the playoffs, they had the most scrutiny, yet they also had some of the most talent. And what did they do? They absolutely dominate Tennessee, they dominate Oregon, and beat Texas convincingly in the Cotton Bowl. So they've had themselves a really good playoff run. Really, what makes this team stand out is the pass attack. Will Howard and this wide receiver core. Everybody knows Ohio State's wide receiver, them, and Alabama are up there as some of the best colleges to produce wide receivers. And looking at this core, it's no different than any other core. It is absolutely loaded. And so they have kind of leaned on this in the playoffs, especially throughout the regular season. And Will Howard's had himself a pretty good year. As for Ohio State's weaknesses, a lot of it comes down to the run attack defense, and a lot of it's coming down to winning at the line of scrimmage. And those are really the only spots that they have struggles in. Other than that, they are a NFL-ready caliber offense and caliber team overall. The Buckeyes, there's really no surprise that they belong here. I mean, even though they were number 8, they were a favorite to make it to the national championship, and now they're one step away of winning their first national championship since 2014, which was 10 years ago. On the flip side, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is the shock of the year. Notre Dame went 11-1 with their one loss being the biggest highlighted loss of any team in the playoffs. NIU, Northern Illinois. An embarrassing loss. I remember watching that game and I was so annoyed, so frustrated watching that game. And then Notre Dame from then on out have won all their games. They went 11-1 and made the number 7 seed in the college football playoffs. Now, because Notre Dame is not in a conference, Notre Dame cannot have the top 4 seeds. Now, that could change depending on how they rework the 12-team system. If you had all the best teams, Notre Dame would have gotten a bye. But I'm actually kind of glad we didn't, because I think that momentum has really helped us. Notre Dame, throughout the playoffs, they beat Indiana convincingly, beat Georgia pretty convincingly, which was a shock. We've never beaten Georgia before. And then a close, hard-fought battle with Penn State, one of the most entertaining college football games I've ever watched, even though it was one of the more stressful games I've ever watched. Notre Dame played well in that game, especially in the second half. We outscored them 24-14 in the second half to win. And now we're at the national championship, and it's just a very nice feeling knowing that Brian Kelly said he could not win at Notre Dame, and it made it seem like, well, Notre Dame's never going to win another national championship. They never won in my lifetime. The last time they won was in 1988. We're 7 years removed from that. And if Notre Dame can win, they break one of the bigger droughts of the big teams in all college football throughout history. And so it's a big deal for us. And where the season looked like it was starting off, a big win at A&M and then a blow loss to NIU. It really felt like it was just going to be another Notre Dame year, and it ended up becoming one of the more special years in all of Notre Dame football history. And it could get even more special if we're able to beat Ohio State. With all of that said, it comes down to the national championship between the number 8 Ohio State Buckeyes, who are currently 13-2, versus the number 7 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are currently 14-1. Notre Dame and Ohio State have dueled in the last 2 years prior to the season, in which Ohio State has won both. When it was in Columbus, they won 21-10. When it was in Notre Dame, they won on the last second of the game. One of the most angriest experiences I've ever had as a Notre Dame fan. And so this game to me is revenge. I want revenge. I want Notre Dame to win and stick it to the Buckeyes. And because of the talent that Ohio State has, I'm very nervous. I'm semi-optimistic because I loved how Notre Dame has looked, but it's Ohio State, and Ohio State made work of Oregon, and that was the team that scared me, and Oregon just got crushed. It was unbelievable. So I'm a little bit scared of that specifically. I think Notre Dame can go toe-to-toe. Here's what it's going to have to take. Notre Dame has one of the best rush attacks in all of football. Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love are some of the best backfield rushers for a quarterback and a running back that there is. Jeremiah Love has 17 rushing touchdowns on the year. Riley Leonard is double digits somewhere. They have just been one of the better rush attack teams, and their defense overall has been extremely consistent. What makes me very optimistic about this matchup with Ohio State is the fact that when we played Penn State, none of their receivers caught anything. It was just the tight ends and the running backs. Really, Penn State, no wide receivers caught a football. And they had a pretty good passing team. They had a really good offense, and we held them at bay where Boise State and where SMU couldn't do so. And when those two teams played, Ohio State and Penn State, it was a close matchup. Yes, Ohio State won, but it was pretty close. So I'm optimistic in the pass game. I think we can deal with Will Howard. I think we can keep them from exceeding there. I don't know much about the run game. I know they have a really good running back themselves who's going to be definitely an early round pick running back when he enters the draft. I think that when it comes to the rushing game, we have to do better. That was where we got exposed. We did really bad in the rush. Horribly. We did terribly there. The only reason why Notre Dame won that game against Penn State was because we had a much needed turnover. We finally hit the quarterback and we got an interception out of it, and that was what it took to beat Penn State. In these last 2 games that Notre Dame played against Georgia and against Penn State, it took magical defensive plays. When it was Georgia, it was the strip sack towards the end of the first half. When it was Penn State, it was the interception towards the end of the second half. It's those kind of plays that Notre Dame needs to have in order to beat Ohio State. One of the things I have been seeing, though, especially when I watch that Ohio State-Texas game, is Ohio State did get exposed a little bit. One of their weaknesses comes in both defensive and offensive views on the rushing game, and both Notre Dame can take care of pretty well. They can control the line of scrimmage if they need to, but it's really that pass attack. Again, I'm optimistic about it, but it's still one of the best offensive passing attacks in all of college football. It's NFL ready. You're going to see many of these players be drafted early on in the NFL draft, whether they commit this year or next year or in the years to come. It's going to happen. So that's something we're going to have to be prepared for as Notre Dame. Where I think this game is going to go, because I do think that most likely Ohio State's going to win. But where I think Notre Dame wins is in a close matchup, 27-23. I just think that Notre Dame has the tools and the game plan that is meant to battle this kind of Ohio State team. And if we can get a significant turnover, that can be the tide. Now, Riley Leonard cannot turn the ball over. If he does, we're in trouble. But if he can pass well, I don't think he does not need to exceed in passing the football. But what he needs to do is get plays wide open, have the big plays down the field. If he can do that, he'll have himself a pretty good game we can win. It's just going to come down to that defense. If our defense cannot step up against this Ohio State offense, we are in big trouble. I think that this Notre Dame offense can do what it didn't do last year against Ohio State, and that is score, score, score. If we can do that, Notre Dame should win this matchup and has a really good chance to do so. If you cannot stop Ohio State or get turnovers, then it's going to be just a shootout all the way, and Ohio State's really good in shootout matchups. So we need a lot of help on defense, and our offense needs to establish the run early and be sure that you're ready to establish the pass when you need to. This is not much of a long episode. That's kind of where I have it. Obviously, I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I'm going to be biased towards Notre Dame, but I wanted to give a reason why I was being biased more than just I want them to win. I actually think they can win. I think that we have a really good chance to win this game, and that's where I have tried to pose this episode as opposed to trying to seem like I'm unbiased and pick who I think is going to win, because obviously I'm going to pick Notre Dame. There's no question about that. I just wanted to explain my side of the story. So I hope you enjoyed this short episode. Nothing huge, nothing big. There's not going to be an episode next week, but there will be a week after when the Super Bowl is on its way. This weekend, or this next week, I'm going to be in Utah. I'll be watching the game from Utah. Obviously, it's going to be very anxious. I'm going to be watching with my dad. We have only ever watched Notre Dame playing a championship together one time back in 2012. And yeah, it was devastating to watch. Hopefully it's new, it's better. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and if you do, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Go follow me on all my social medias as season 2 is beginning to wind up, and we're going to get ready to go into the off season. Obviously, there's some things that I want to get done and get ready for next year. And then, of course, the Super Bowl episode will be next up. Episode 42 will be the last episode of season 2 of this podcast. I thank you guys so much for all the support. Got to 114 subscribers, 73,000 views, and counting. It's honestly been a really good experience being able to grow this year. I can't wait to see y'all for the next season, but we got one more episode afterwards. So I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and goodbye.